Well, after getting flack for mere speculation on the film, I saw The Batman, and I'm not disappointed. Nor am I completely 9 out of 10 level impressed. Let's get into it. I'm gonna spoil stuff just so you know, duh. The Batman is a decent, fairly above popcorn flick movie which does enough, and doesn't completely numb the mind like most dumb MCU popcorn flicks such as Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, and a bunch of their dumb shows, etc. And for that alone, I'm fairly happy. No corny scenes that would be in the MCU movies like...
You got a lot of cats.
I have a thing about strays.
Oh, well, you're like some sort of, Catwoman. Anyway, let's knock out most of the positives before I piss everyone off. Gotham City itself looks very cool aesthetically, with it being noirish and dark and, crime-ish. Batman makes a deep speech about how he works in Gotham, through fear. He can't be everywhere, but criminals fear that he may be there, therefore making criminals less likely to do crimes, in short. Pretty accurate speech, but I don't think that's useful or necessary. Call me Megamind as you logically should, but that's quite assumable in like every Batman adaptation, without having to be this blunt. I don't think the speech is worth clapping your hands over. Even among other similar heroes like Green Arrow and Daredevil, the same premise exists. The soundtrack is pretty great, although it's basically just one song with lyrics and one special one with it barely changing beyond it being louder or quieter. And I wouldn't put it on the level of 1989's Batman, Batman vs Superman, and Joker. Catwoman, despite me originally being skeptical, is pretty decent. Her looking fairly miserable throughout most of the story makes sense given her area in combination with the loss of her mother in the movie. Zoe Kravitz is probably going to end up being more memorable than the most recent movie adaptation in The Dark Knight Rises. I don't remember a thing about her in The Dark Knight Rises apart from her killing Bane with a bike, and besides that, I think no one ever really talks about her. Actors like Michelle Pfeiffer and Julie Newmar aren't really comparable given the difference in tone, and in terms of Cameron Bicondova from Gotham,
That's a child! You know what that means, Bill? Wait! No! Go to the police!
But yeah, Zoe Kravitz did decent in the role, although I don't like her as much as most animated adaptations or video game adaptations. I don't mind the Falcone twist, although I found it predictable in terms of him being at least a relative of some sort. I know it's not like that in the books, but I don't think anyone cares about who her parents were in main canon. I know I don't. Her arc sort of steals too much of plot in a way that doesn't involve Batman too much. But one more thing on her, I don't really see the chemistry between her and Bruce that much at all, especially in comparison to other adaptations, but apart from that, I was partially wrong on that one. Although I still don't know why they caked the hell out of such a pretty face. Her fight scene with Batman was really great. It actually caught me off guard with her being curb stomped by Batman. In this day and age, I would have expected her to wreck Batman. But I guess I've been wasting too much time attempting to watch shitty Disney, Marvel, or Star Wars shows that have jaded me. I think I could have done with her putting up more of a fight though, but it was quite funny and I guess realistic. The tweaks to Riddler were fun enough. I can sort of see why changing his tone a lot was done, because he's usually a joke character for most of what I've seen him in. Although I don't think these changes elevate him enough to be on an insanely high spot like most Joker adaptations, Two-Face, Bane, Lex Luthor, or what Sam Raimi did with various Spider-Man villains, etc. He's sorta just a loser, incel, redditor, 4chaner, Discord mod, school shooter, etc. Except bombing and riddles instead. I guess it works since we see it in society fairly enough. But I don't think that's super duper depthful, despite not being as nothing level as various dumb forgettable MCU villains. The scene with Batman roasting the hell out of him was funny as hell, despite it partially feeling out of character to the point where it sort of felt like some parody YouTube video. When Batman crap talks to Riddler, it's usually for a reason, but here, he's already in jail with no way of escaping. But anyway. Then we have Penguin, who's fine at best. His joy over thinking he lost Batman was fairly entertaining, but he sorta just looks like a semi-regular dude as opposed to Keaton's. The Arkham games and especially Gotham. He was semi-normal in the Telltale games, but he at least has a penguin mask and got a leg injury at the end of it, which would guarantee his waddle. I don't really see why this penguin is called Penguin from a cosmetic sense, like, at all. He doesn't waddle, he isn't short, and his face isn't shaped that, penguin-ish. Is being fat and having a slightly round face enough to be called Penguin? I guess your average McDonald's fan can now be called Penguin. Don't even get me started on the wasted time on prosthetics for such an average performance. You could have just got someone who was built like this. But I don't know, maybe they'll break his leg in the sequel. The dynamic of Gotham and its cops being dirty is decent, but isn't anything new since most Batman media, including live action films, have done this. They show a decent amount of detective work, which is cool to see, but that's sort of due to the villain just being Riddler. A lot of people say that Batman is really supposed to be a detective, which is dandy, but come on, despite the name Detective Comics being a thing at a point, we all know Batman is mostly a kick-ass superhero. But anyway, I find these smart detective moments to be countered by his dumb behavior at moments, which I'll get into later. Now on to the cons, where I'll piss everyone off. I called this a 9 or 10 masterpiece. Bear with me as I repeat a lot of points that were said in my speculation video. The thing is, when I think of DC films or just general DC stories, especially ones that involve Batman, I expect some deep, top-of-the-bill stuff. Take Batman vs Superman as an example. If you're not some bandwagoning dumb, BVS is a story that tackles how much loss one man can handle before becoming jaded by all of it, and partially losing oneself to the point where one makes new rules in accordance to all of that loss in a city that won't change despite his best efforts. It also covers how the masses would react to a godlike figure that they can't fully control. It covers how the media and various other bullshit networks would try to butcher and politicize this figure, and how people would be influenced by this media into bandwagoning upon a man just trying to do a good thing. Bandwagoning because they're told to, which is ironic given the crowd that ended up disliking that movie. But anyway, we have others inspired by DC's best story, Batman the Killing Joke, with films like The Dark Knight, where Joker goes on to prove that the mightiest person can fall if the worst cards are unluckily dealt. The Joker movie that delves into someone falling and staying down due to bad cards being dealt from the very beginning, all as fate would have it. Point is, all that stuff I briefly went into was all deep as hell, and the Batman, despite not being a super dumb poo-poo brain film, isn't that or anything else on a deep level in comparison to all I just named. The only things I got from it for the most part are things that are fairly typical, like Riddler being a lonely loser so he seeks purpose in violence and destruction despite it partially being targeted towards corrupt parts of Gotham. Similar to the Joker movie, I guess, but with a lot less focus. He has a similarity to Batman due to being an orphan, and I guess he took it differently. Then there's Catwoman wanting vengeance for the loss of a loved one, which is fairly typical in stories beyond Batman. And Batman delivering ultra-typical dialogue like, "Oh, you're not my dad," which comes off as ultra edgy given that Alfred didn't seem like he was even heavily agitating Bruce, on top of this being the first scene they have together in the movie. Alfred doesn't really do much in this movie, now that I think about it. He gets edgily told that he's not Bruce's dad, helps with a puzzle, then gets blown up only to survive and give Bruce Wayne news about his dad not being a complete bad guy. Perhaps I'm too spoiled from him having more of a presence in BVS or just any other Batman media. As I tried to make clear in my speculation video, deep compelling themes is my expectation for most DC stories, especially ones that involve the Batman brand. And under that expectation of mine, I was just about right all along, with other points that are still objective. Although he's not completely horrible in the role, but apart from being tall, this Batman is objectively the least built Batman we have ever had, just about, especially in comparison to Ben Affleck. I know none of the others are as built as Ben Affleck, but they're not as skinny as Pattinson, and that's not an opinion. You can try to screw move me and say I like a more lean Batman, but lean objectively means less built, especially in the case of Pattinson. Look at how a track runner looks like. Pattinson doesn't even look like half of that. No Batman has ever been this skinny or doughy. Even the concept art for the movie shows him as more buff, which debatably therefore means that Pattinson underdelivered. Beyond stuff like the weird never seen before exposed jawline on the Batsuit, the Bat armor is weird and inconsistent. He doesn't need stealth and only briefly does it once despite not really needing to. He gets shot in the shoulder and receives knockback, but then he gets knocked out by bullets. But then later, walks through machine guns. He takes damage whenever the script wants him to. The few bits of damage he does receive gets contradicted by him just walking through machine gun fire, as said within my last video. I guess the shotgun shot can be argued since it was pretty close, but I don't really think that outweighs 14-ish close-range machine gun shots, as said in the last video. Once again, the armor being this durable makes that revealed face way more impractical than it debatably was. I'm not just bitching for comic accuracy's sake. As said in the last video, this is sorta dumb on its own merits. This movie is a dark, noirish setting, and yet he has armor as durable as Iron Man at inconsistent times. This would be more excusable for stories with different tones like Iron Man, Black Panther, X-Men, and The Mandalorian. And even then, The Mandalorian and X-Men do knock back way more consistently. Gliding was made weird. I guess you could argue it being a prototype, but you're telling me that Iron Bad armor is fine, but gliding with a cape is now too much, despite the grounded Nolan trilogy doing it before. His suit somehow turning into a wingsuit that also has a parachute is debatably more impractical than if it were just a regular cape. He also fucks up with it too, which is weird. Isn't Batman a ninja? Did he not practice with this tool he already made? Why did he try to use a parachute while going under a bridge? He's lucky he has his armor, cause he sorta carries himself like a dumbass at times in comparison to other Batmen or vigilantes like Daredevil and Green Arrow, to be honest. You've heard this one before. Riddler's bomb is about to go off with a visible timer. He stands in front of it until it explodes, and it knocks him out while his goofily uncovered face has no damage. They could have at least had him try to cover himself with his cape in the last half second or something. He gets caught off guard and shot by criminals approaching him at ground level. Caramel ladies do be distracting me too, but I'm not a vigilante. He doesn't carry himself like Batman does in any other form of Batman media, combat-wise. Comic accuracy aside and on its own merits, you're left with a vigilante that gets hard carried by his Iron Bat armor that's inconsistent within the film. These strays from the source material honestly get me mad in the context that deep movies like BVS got flack for some minor strays from the source material, while this movie that doesn't challenge the mind gets away with it along with other dumb Marvel movies. I guess you guys only hate comic accuracy when your YouTubers you like to hive think to tell you to. I'll give that its own video someday. But anyway, the last point is his apparent arc in becoming someone who is a hero and a light for the people of Gotham. You see, because he's holding a light. It's fairly decent, although Batman was fighting crime for 2 years, and it seems like something he should have already learned ages ago. I know Batman sort of subconsciously or consciously fights crime out of vengeance for what happened to his parents, but despite that, him knowing that he was doing this for the people of Gotham should sort of be a no crap subtle moment, especially since he's 2 years in and not 2 or 6 months. Overall, the pros keep this film above dumb popcorn flick level, but all the comic inaccuracies that don't really work on their own merits, dumb moments like Batman staring down a bomb and a lack of a super deep compelling topic, keeps this film at a decent 7 at generous best. And that could go down to a 6 or less if I decide to really focus on those cons I named. I liked Joker's scene in the movie that was expressed via dialogue through his cell. His deleted scene, on the other hand, is something I'm tempted to give its own rant video, but others have already covered it fairly well. It also wouldn't be fair to knock the released film for it since it's, deleted. But if you guys want a 9 out of 10 Batman early years story that has detective work and covers deep themes like fate, memory, etc., where Batman doesn't have Iron Man armor and can glide, then you should just play the severely underrated Batman Arkham Origins. It's basically the great version of this movie. Penguin seems like a penguin, Alfred has screen time, the story has deep themes, and a more logical, subtle character development for Batman, where he isn't an edgeboy to Alfred for illogical and petty reasons, etc. I may give that comparison its own full video. But anyway, that's about it for the review segment of this video. I'm not going to give the movie a 9 or a 10 like a lot of others are, nor will I counter it by subconsciously giving it to confirmation bias and rating it super low just because of my last video. Sorry to quote Shrek, but I don't care about what everyone likes. But speaking of everyone, let's briefly finish off with a bonus round of a special needs comment section. Short story, I got flack because I dared to speculate a movie's quality before it was out, or shame on me, but yet no one put up a logical argument whatsoever as they gave me crap. What little counters I did get made no sense. I guess Kitten and Affleck didn't need stealth with their armor either. As said in the last video, they at least flinch or show pain or straight up fall. There is not a scene where they just straight up walk through it. I even made the effort to edit all this for you to see. Someone unironically pulled the Megamind no bitches meme all because I didn't think a movie would be good. You apparently get no bitches if you think a popular movie will be bad. I even got chat talked by the same person for liking comments of people who said they liked the movie without throwing insults my way. I'm not petty enough to roast a comment like this. The only somewhat close to logical one was someone saying Catwoman has been black in a comic before, Batman Year 1 apparently. I guess I missed that. I read comics but not every single one. But anyway, I guess I should have mentioned other black Catwoman actors as well. But anyway, that counter matters little due to Gordon having no explanation whatsoever. Not that I would deduct points for it, it was just a concern given where their priorities may have lied. Given that they race swapped 2 people in one movie as opposed to just one. Speaking of race, as controversial and insecure as RK Outpost's take on race in his Batman review was, I don't think he was really wrong along with other similar takes. The only prominent good guy white character was Batman and Alfred, who doesn't even get much to do. They race swapped 2 characters that would have been good guys while leaving all the bad guys alone, in combination with the one uncorrupt person of high authority being a black woman who was the mayor. I don't really dig his milked ass content such as over a dozen videos on a crappy overpriced Star Wars hotel, but he's clearly right. In this day and age, I highly doubt it's coincidental despite my taste in camera beauties. But anyway, back onto the dumbasses. For putting this all out in the comment section, I'm apparently a bully. Call me whatever you want, but I don't back down and turn the cheek to dumbasses. I'm glad I just so happened to piss you high mind bitches off just by saying my honest thoughts, a lot of which were pretty much objective, such as Pattinson's physique being the least built bat body we've got. In terms of accidentally pissing people off, I don't regret it, because I was honest, and getting a front row seat to hypocritical dumbasses made me like it. Hell, I loved it. And if honest, objective thoughts is all you need, then I'm just itching to do it again. You think your dislikes and illogical comments are gonna stop me from saying what I want to say? No. Hell no. It ain't happening. Kill yourselves now. But yeah, that's about it for this video. That was way too long and may still get me some more flack. But check out my other videos on my channel, such as a few other Batman videos like the speculation video that this video is the sequel to, or a cool video I made about the music in Batman Arkham Origins. And check out my other media in my link tree like my Instagram. But yeah, thanks for watching.